An explosive interview on Capitol Hill as the public impeachment inquiry continues. 3 more witnesses testified, but the most notable one was from U.S. Ambassador Gordon Sondland, who under oath said a quid pro quo came at the express direction of the president.
Was there a quid pro quo? As I testified previously, with regard to the requested White House call and the White House meeting, the answer is yes.
Sondland went on to state that, quote, everyone was in the loop about what was going on with the Ukraine foreign policy implicating top Trump officials. Good evening and thanks for watching Wgxa News at 10. I'm Aaron Leedy. Boy, a lot of details coming out of today's impeachment hearing to get to tonight. We have team coverage from James Rosen in Washington, D.C., all the way down to here in Middle Georgia. We start with Wgxa's Jayla Whitfield, who's been working for you, gathering reaction from the public hearings. Jayla, people really had a lot to say about these hearings.
Yeah, Aaron, it was an intense day on Capitol Hill as the impeachment inquiries continue. Now, today I took to the streets of Middle Georgia to find out what you at home think about it. Here's what our community members had to say.
I don't think he's done anything to get impeached first.
He need to be out of that office.
Last time a president was impeached was Bill Clinton in 1998. 20 years later, and another president is facing possible impeachment. It began on September 24th when the U.S. House of Representatives announced the impeachment inquiry.
I don't agree with him. I think they ought to leave the man alone, let him keep on doing his job.
Any way necessary within the law that Trump got to go.
Testimony from multiple officials have been heard thus far. Some residents say we shouldn't spend time or resources on the impeachment process.
I think we're wasting money trying to get this done.
Have you been watching the impeachment hearings?
I've watched some of them. I ain't got no interest in it. They just need to leave the man alone, let him keep doing his job.
The inquiries have lasted for months now, and some residents say respect of the people is the issue.
Respect the people. Why can't he respect the people?
During Bill Clinton's impeachment, he was charged with perjury and obstruction.
Clinton didn't just say any and everything. He measured the words that came out of his mouth. Trump don't care.
Americans around the world are watching and awaiting the final verdict.
All depends on whether the good gonna take over the bad.
Now, coming up later in the show, our James Rosen will actually break down today's impeachment inquiry and also tell you what it could mean for the upcoming 2020 election. But for now, in the control room, Jayla Whitfield.
And taking a look outside of Tyler Perry Studios in Atlanta, where the Democratic debate started just an hour ago. 10 candidates on the stage right now inside that venue. Tonight's debate opened with a question on impeachment. And since the last debate, 3 candidates have suspended their campaigns. Former Texas Representative Beto O'Rourke, Ohio Representative Tim Ryan, and Miramar, Florida Mayor Wayne Messam.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jeff Cox in the Skywatch Weather Center. We've made it through our Wednesday, and boy, as we finish out the day, we've got some chilly temperatures out there. Leave it to Dublin, already in the upper 30s. I'll take you there in a moment. Elsewhere, we've got the 40s across the region. 42 in Gray, 43 for Milledgeville and Macon, 44 in Warner Robins, 42 in Perry. So no doubt you already need the jacket tonight, and I think you'll certainly need it tomorrow morning as we wake up to right around 40 degrees. Here's what it looks like in Dublin with that 39 on the map. It's pretty quiet. Weather-wise, it is a beautiful evening across the region, but a clear sky and a calm wind. And boy, that temperature in Lawrence County has dropped rapidly this evening, although I don't expect too much cooling left over tonight. Let's look ahead to your Thursday school day forecast. We'll start out right around 40 at the bus stop. Notice a few clouds that'll sneak in during the overnight hours. Mid-60s by lunchtime with a mostly sunny sky. And then into the upper 60s for the ride home with a partly cloudy sky. So yes, tomorrow featuring a mix of sun and clouds. Not as, quote, nice as we had today, but in the end, tomorrow is really not going to be a bad day at all. All right, coming up in just a few minutes, we look ahead to the weekend. Part of your weekend features rain. I'll time it out for you. Plus, your Thanksgiving outlook. We'll look at both the day before, Thanksgiving Day, and Black Friday, and we'll have your tropical update. Remember, we've got Sebastian spinning in the Atlantic, where that storm is headed, plus your 10-day forecast. It's coming up in just a few minutes.
All right, Jeff, we'll see you soon. Happening now, a Wilcox County deputy is under arrest facing multiple drug charges. Officials say James Carlisle's arrest comes after a narcotics investigation by the Wilcox County Sheriff's Office. Their drug investigator found out about Carlisle's alleged involvement while investigating a different narcotics case. He wasn't on duty at the time of his arrest. The search continues tonight for one of the men who allegedly forced 2 schools into a lockdown in Butts County. The incident started as a traffic stop before 2 men ran from deputies. And Butts County school officials say Henderson Middle School and Jackson High School were placed into a code yellow lockdown this evening. They say there was no immediate threat to anyone at the school. That lockdown was just a safety precaution. 1 person was caught, the other still on the run tonight. New tonight, Bibb County Sheriff's deputies are looking for 2 suspects who are on the run after allegedly carjacking someone in a parking lot. This happened outside the Dollar Tree on Eisenhower Parkway. Deputies say the victim couldn't get a thorough description of the suspects. Anyone with information can call the Bibb County Sheriff's Office or, of course, Macon Regional Crime Stoppers. New at 10, first responders coming together at the Guardian Centers in Perry, practicing their response to a wide range of disaster scenarios. WGXA's Nick Gibson was there tonight. Nick, a lot of people from a lot of different agencies coming together here.
Yeah, that's right, Aaron. This event is in day 2 of 3, where police, fire, and military members can train for real-life scenarios. I was able to go to the gas pipeline leak explosion, where some of the top emergency responders were on hand to practice this scenario. I spoke with one representative from Verizon, and he tells me the technology helps prevent gas pipeline explosions.
The biggest thing is preventing, right? It's a matter of adding sensors and technology to understand a potentially dangerous situation. 1, to make sure that you prevent it altogether, and then 2, at least give you enough forewarning if something is going to happen to clear the area. What we saw here tonight was sensors downrange that were deployed that understood that something was wrong. And then we saw an evacuation. So we actually moved about 450 different customers that were here on site at the Guardian Centers in Perry, Georgia, away from the potential disaster.
Now, Nylan also tells me that they are getting great responses back from first responders. They say it is important to test this before it happens so that they can be trained and ready for it. From the studio, I'm Nick Gibson.
Staying positive in the midst of a struggle, in a story you will only see here, sharing one veteran's story about his daily life being homeless. Tonight, some veterans across the state are steadily without a place to call home. We talked to one Army veteran who stays positive throughout his struggle. And as Paige Buchanan reports, he's just happy to have the support of one local organization.
A lot of us don't get enough benefits to really get somewhere to live, but by the grace of God, we do get something to eat, and shelter over our head.
Stephen Ezer is an Army veteran who's fallen victim to the veteran homelessness epidemic across the state. Just last year, there were over 700 veterans that experienced homelessness on any single day. David Whitmore, director of the Carl Vinson VA Medical Center, says there are several reasons these heroes are now without a home.
Sometimes there are mental health issues or substance abuse issues.
But Whitmore wants his veterans to know that regardless of the reason, there is still hope.
Our goal is to identify those veterans and enroll them in programs that can help them and help them bounce back to become productive members of society again.
Ezer says he's been homeless for a little over a year now, but says he always keeps his head up even when times are tough.
The VA is like, hurry up and wait. It's coming, but you got to be patient enough to wait on it, And I just thank God for this day.
Ezer says despite the circumstances, he's always been grateful to have a safe place to stay.
It's really one of the most rewarding parts of our job. When we can help a homeless veteran, again, recover and then bounce back and return to be a productive member of society. I mean, really, that is what makes all of our hearts warm to do that.
The VA in Dublin has been providing for veterans since 1948. They provide grants for the homeless, shelter, and even health care.
The most help is at Carl Vinson Medical Center. And I go there for most of my treatments and everything. and for my medication and all, you know, and they got counselors there and treatment teams that help you, and I just appreciate them, you know.
Joanne Oxley with the Healthcare for Homeless says loss of health care is another reason veterans fall victim to homelessness.
You know, people can be doing really well and have a medical crisis and lose everything because of the cost of health care, loss of a spouse, loss of employment, things like that.
Ezra says he sees many people who need this type of assistance on a daily basis.
I see a lot of guys really need this, you know, which I need too, you know, because my depression and everything, you know, and my homelessness and not being financially able to have my own place or take care of myself, you know, financially, you know, but things, I feel that in time things will work out, you know.
That's Paige Buchanan reporting there. And just today, 2 retired veterans gave back to homeless veterans. It's all part of the Homeless Veteran Transitions Program. The organization has been working to turn the Villager Lodge Motel in Macon into a shelter for local veterans. They partnered with Coliseum Medical Centers today to get more support. Now, when they first started this project, they received 300 to 400 boxes of food for their pantry. But now they have surpassed their expectations with more than 1,000 boxes of easily preparable meals for homeless veterans. And they've also made progress on getting some veterans sheltered.
We're at a point in the project where we can feed these veterans some substantial meals, and while we continue to renovate the hotel rooms. Right now we have about 32 of the 80 rooms renovated, but we still need a lot of help.
And if you'd like to donate to this organization, you can find more information on their website, homeportmaconga.org. Atlanta hosting the 5th Democratic presidential debate underway right now, just ahead, why experts say Georgia may play a major role in the 2020 election. Happening now, the Americas Police Department has requested the assistance of the Georgia Bureau of Investigation following a shooting. Police say they responded to a 911 call about a man getting out of a vehicle with a gunshot wound. That man was taken to Phoebe Sumter, where he died from his injuries. The name of the victim has not been released at this time. Anyone with information should call the Americas Police tip line. Well, as Democratic presidential candidates face off during tonight's debate in Atlanta, some party leaders say they have good reason to focus on the Peach State heading into 2020. For the first time in nearly a generation, Democrats think they have a chance to win back Georgia's 16 electoral votes. And by moving the primary date to late March, Democratic Party leaders hope the state can play a more influential role in choosing the nominee. Democratic leaders say Georgia now won't have to compete with delegate-rich states like California and Texas on Super Tuesday, making the Peach State less of an afterthought. State officials delayed the vote so they could replace outdated voting machines.
The biggest disadvantage is if the race is decided by Super Tuesday, no one's really going to pay much attention to Georgia when they have their primary later that month.
Democratic leaders say Georgia is getting more attention this election cycle because of its changing demographics. They see the state's growing diversity and minority population as an opportunity to turn the Peach State blue. 3 more witnesses testified as part of the House impeachment inquiry. It included new information about when Ukraine knew military aid was being withheld and testimony from an ambassador who says there was a quid pro quo. Ray Bogan on Capitol Hill tonight with more. Ray, good evening.
Gordon Sondland's testimony had been much anticipated after Ambassador Bill Taylor testified that Sondland told his staffer President Trump only cares about an investigation into the Bidens. Sondland appears to have given Democrats exactly what they wanted.
Was there a quid pro quo? The answer is yes.
EU Ambassador Gordon Sondland says he believes the quid pro quo was a White House meeting between Presidents Trump and Zelensky in exchange for Ukraine announcing investigations into corruption and Burisma. Sondland also testified since he didn't know why military aid was being held up, he concluded it must be for the same reason.
I later came to believe that the resumption of security aid would not occur until there was a public statement from Ukraine committing to the investigations.
President Trump said he never demanded anything.
I want nothing. I want no quid pro quo.
In the evening, a State Department undersecretary and Pentagon official testified.
You're not aware of any nefarious motive to withhold aid to Ukraine. Is that correct?
Correct, sir.
Republicans have argued Ukraine never knew the aid was being withheld, but Pentagon official Laura Cooper revealed Ukraine may have known as far back as July 25th.
You believe you have some evidence that the Ukrainians first inquired about security assistance to someone in your office on July 25.
That's correct.
President Trump responded to the evening testimony. If this were a prize fight, they'd stop it. Hearings continue Thursday with testimony from a former National Security Council official and a counselor at the U.S. Embassy in Ukraine. On Capitol Hill, Ray Bogan. Aaron, back to you.
All right, still a lot to sort through. Ray Bogan in Washington tonight. Thanks, Ray.
Good evening, everyone. Jeff Cox with you in the Skywatch Weather Center. Current time 10:18. Shaping up to be a chilly night across the mid-state. Really, it already is if you look at the numbers we have tonight. Low to mid-40s for just about everyone. And then Dublin, you said, hey, hold our thermometer. We want to be different again tonight, down to 39 in Lawrence County. 42 in Gray, 43 for Macon, 42 in Perry, and 41 in Eastman. Wake up temperatures in Middle Georgia right around that 40-degree mark, so you'll need the jacket heading off to work and school, but should be able to get away with short sleeves for the afternoon. In Southwest Georgia, a mix of 40s and 50s out there tonight. Kind of interesting. Look at Cordell at 44. You ride it down 75 to Ashburn, you jump to 51. Then you ride down to Tifton, you fall to 45. Then you ride down to Adel, you jump to 53. So the numbers all over the place tonight. It's 47 here in Albany, 53 in Newton and Leesburg, and 51 in Morgan. Wake up temperatures tomorrow morning in the 40s as well. All right, our next weather maker comes in on Saturday. It'll be this cold front, folks. So ahead of it, very warm for Friday and Saturday. Then the rain comes through Saturday. And then on the backside, it lives up to its name with much cooler temperatures for Sunday and Monday. So let's break it down for you. Here's the weekend forecast for Middle Georgia. Wet weather Saturday with a temperature in the low 70s. By Sunday, with sunshine, we only manage the low 60s. In Southwest Georgia, we'll look for the rain on Saturday, and look at that high, 77 for the front half of the weekend. But behind the cold front on Sunday, highs only in the mid-60s. So the dramatic shift in temperature will take place this weekend, and by Monday morning, I suspect we'll be waking up to some 30s across the region. Then after this weekend, we're looking ahead to next week. Of course, Thanksgiving is on the way. This is the weather map for the day before Thanksgiving. And notice we've got this weather system pushing through the eastern third of the country. This is going to be one to watch, folks. That day before Thanksgiving is such a busy travel day, and we're looking at wet weather and potentially snowy weather in the Northeast, so that can impact some of the big hubs. So airline delays could be a concern. We'll have rain coming through Georgia as well, so how does that impact the Atlanta airport? If you're flying out of Macon using Contour up to Baltimore, we'll have to watch that as well. On the day before Thanksgiving, the Midwest looks okay with a storm system coming in from the west. Watch what happens on Thanksgiving Day. That system explodes. Look at the snow from Montana all the way to Missouri. That's one to watch on Thanksgiving Day. Now here in the Southeast, I think things are pretty quiet based on what we see right now. So a lot to go over for the middle of next week. I think Wednesday is worse for the East Coast, and then Thursday is worse for the Midwest and West Coast. All right, here's what the 10-day forecast looks like. Up first, Middle Georgia, 60s tomorrow, turn to 70s Friday and Saturday. Wet on Saturday, colder Sunday and Monday, and then more rain next Wednesday. That'll be followed by a mix of sun and clouds for Thanksgiving and Black Friday. Here's the forecast for Southwest Georgia. Wet weather on Saturday as we inch closer to that 80-degree mark. Then we'll look for the low 70s with another chance of rain middle of next week. Right now, Thanksgiving looks really warm in Southwest Georgia with a high in the 70s. Stay tuned. We've got more news and weather coming up after this.
If you spent your Halloween night watching scary movies on TV, you may have heard the sounds of jingle bells or Christmas carols during the commercial breaks. Well, for many reluctant holiday shoppers, no monster movie is as scary as the Christmas creep. But for others, the festive ads and decor serve as added motivation to get out and get that holiday shopping started early. Steve Nannis has more in tonight's Consumer Watch.
For many people, decking the halls while the jack-o'-lanterns are still lit is unthinkable.
Back in, October, it was a little weird.
But for some earnest holiday shoppers, it's never too early to get in the spirit.
we just bought some stuff for Christmas, and they were running like pre-Christmas sale or like pre-Black Friday sale, which I bought quite a few presents.
In fact, according to the National Retail Federation, about 40% of consumers actually begin their holiday shopping before Halloween, and retailers are responding.
Retailers have started offering, many of them have started offering promotions earlier in the season, some as early as Halloween.
For retailers, there's good reason for the so-called Christmas creep.
A longer shopping season gives consumers more time. It gives them time to browse and find the items they really want.
More enthusiasm around shopping translates into more spending. The NRF forecasts holiday retail sales to hit nearly $730 billion over November and December. Yet even with the Christmas creep, the 5 days between Thanksgiving and Cyber Monday will still be some of the busiest shopping days of the year.
NRF is projecting an estimated more than 114 million consumers will shop on Black Friday, and that's still the biggest shopping day out of that entire weekend.
But whether you're an early bird or a strict after Turkey Day traditionalist, the holiday shopping clock is already ticking. For Consumer Watch, I'm Steve Nannis.
Our time 10:25. Let's talk a little bit about hurricane season tonight. You know, we talked about yesterday, once that first wave of cold weather comes through, we kind of forget about hurricane season when in fact it runs through November 30th. Now, are we really on edge in the month of November? Not necessarily. After all, the peak of the season is September 10th. So we have worked our way all the way down the mountain. We're on the base of the mountain. We're just about there, folks. So is a storm impossible to form in November? Is certainly not the case. In fact, 5% of all named storms form in the month of November. So while it is a lackluster month when it comes to activity, there's not a zero on the graphic. And here's Exhibit A. We'll call this Tropical Storm Sebastian. Winds are at 60, gusting to 70 tonight. The center is northeast of San Juan, Puerto Rico. So here we are with the S storm. And by the way, this is the first time we've made it to the S name in the alphabet for the Atlantic Basin since 2012. And that was the year of Sandy. So a lot of storms this season, a lot to keep track of. Now, the good news is with Sebastian, we don't really need to worry about it. The latest forecast track keeps this thing out in the open Atlantic. It loses its tropical characteristics by Friday. Oh yeah, by the way, the newest forecast, it becomes a hurricane tomorrow. But this is a shipping channel storm, and that's about it. Well, those captains on those big boats, well, they're pretty smart, so I suspect they'll be sailing around Sebastian in the coming days. Coming up in our second half hour, we'll look at the chilly morning ahead, and I'll have your school day forecast as well. Stick around.
We have fresh reaction tonight from top officials of the Trump administration to the bombshell testimony at the impeachment inquiry this morning. It was presented by a senior U.S. diplomat, Gordon Sondland, who tied Trump and key aides directly to the plan to leverage military aid to Ukraine in exchange for that country's help investigating prominent Democrats. Sinclair investigative reporter James Rosen has the very latest tonight.
Attending NATO meetings overseas, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo declined to respond directly to Wednesday morning's explosive impeachment testimony from EU Ambassador Gordon Sondland. But Pompeo staunchly defended the Trump administration's handling of military aid to Ukraine.
I'm not going to recuse myself from this. I know precisely what American policy was with respect to Ukraine. I was working on it, and I'm incredibly proud of what we've accomplished. And I'm proud. I'm proud that President Trump led that effort to get our policy on Ukraine right.
Not only did we win today, it's over. And some of the fair press, of which there isn't too much, said this thing is over.
Across hours of testimony that cited previously unpublished texts and emails, Sondland alleged that President Trump, working through private attorney Rudy Giuliani, with the full knowledge of Pompeo and then National Security Advisor John Bolton,
everyone was in the loop.
Directed from the Oval Office a secret campaign executed by Sondland and other aides designed to withhold the military aid until Ukraine's president announced an investigation into the Biden family. Republicans on the Intelligence Committee sought to draw a line around the president.
Giuliani didn't tell you, Mulvaney didn't tell you, nobody, Pompeo didn't tell you, nobody else on this planet told you that Donald Trump was tying aid to these investigations. Is that correct?
Yes.
While Democrats argued Mr. Trump never needed to spell things out for Sondland.
Who had the decision to release the aid
It was one person, Donald J. Trump, President of the United States. My colleagues seem to think unless the president says the magic words, I hereby bribe the Ukrainians, that there's no evidence of bribery or other high crimes or misdemeanors.
Wednesday's evening session featured State and Defense Department officials who described the mechanics by which the military aid to Ukraine was suspended. Friday, the panel will hear from Fiona Hill, a former aide to Ambassador John Bolton at the National Security Council. On Capitol Hill, James Rosen.
Tense day on Capitol Hill as the impeachment inquiry continues. The last time a president was impeached was Bill Clinton in 1998. Nearly 20 years later, and another president is facing possible impeachment. It all began on September 24th when the U.S. House of Representatives announced the impeachment inquiry. Today, I actually took to the streets of Middle Georgia to get your input. Here's what community members had to say.
I don't agree with him. I think they ought to leave the man alone, let him keep on doing his job.
Any way necessary within the law that Trump got to go.
From multiple officials have been heard thus far. Some residents say we shouldn't spend time or resources on the impeachment process. Americans around the world are watching and awaiting the final verdict. We'll continue to update you as the impeachment inquiry progresses. Be sure to follow us on Facebook to share your thoughts. But for now, in the studio, Jayla Whitfield.
More political news for you tonight. The chairman of the Democratic National Committee took aim at voter suppression during a summit in Atlanta hours before tonight's Democratic presidential candidate debate. Tom Perez blasted Georgia's Republican leadership in what he described as restrictive practices at the polls. Using himself as an example, Perez said that if he were to vote without using his middle initial, Georgia election officials would be prepared to remove him from the voting polls. Perez also took verbal shots at President Donald Trump.
Current time 10:34. Jeff Cox with you on this Wednesday night in the Skywatch Weather Center. I've got my jacket ready to go when we exit the studio tonight. Yeah, temperatures have dropped pretty rapidly this evening, and so low to mid 40s are widespread across middle Georgia. And of course, we have our friends down in Dublin who like to be different, showing up in the upper 30s tonight. School day forecast for middle Georgia. Here we have it, right around 40 at the bus stop, mid 60s by lunchtime, close to 70 for the ride home. We'll look for a trend of increasing clouds overnight and through the day tomorrow, so partly cloudy by the afternoon. No rain expected, so overall, not a bad day at all. Let's go to southwest Georgia tonight, where the wide range of temperatures is pretty impressive. I documented our first half hour of the trip along 75. You go from 44 to 51 to 45 to 53 to 47 to 43. So that would be fun to make that trip and watch your thermometer in the car rapidly change from town to town. Interesting phenomenon there tonight. 47 in Albany, 53 in Leesburg and Dawson, 41 to the west in Blakely. Here's what we expect tomorrow. Our school day forecast in southwest Georgia, mid 40s at the bus stop, mid 60s by lunchtime, and up around 70 for the ride home with a good mix of sun and clouds throughout the day. All right, later in the half hour, check your calendar. The weekend not too far away. We'll break down which day has rain. Then Thanksgiving rolls on in. We'll have the outlook there. And I've got your tropical update, the latest path for tropical storm, soon to be Hurricane Sebastian. That plus your 10-day forecast coming up in just a bit.
Georgia lawmakers who are studying the possibility of expanding gambling in the state are taking their show on the road. A House committee held a meeting yesterday in Valdosta, noting that tax revenues on casinos, sports betting, or horse racing could bolster the state's Hope Scholarship program for college students. It was the first in a series of meetings scheduled around the state. Expanding gambling would require a state constitutional amendment, and committee members say they are looking most favorably at resort-style casinos. Keep an eye out for deer this holiday travel season. Vegetation along the side of the road attracts deer to the area in all seasons, but they are seen more frequently during this time of year.
One reason, this is their mating season. November is the peak time for them to mate, so their movements increase greatly. They cover more ground, and typically you'll see more than one together at a time.
Time change is also a contributor to increased deer sightings on roadways. More people are traveling at dusk and dawn when deer are most active. And keep in mind that if there is one deer, there are most likely more to follow. And increased movement from deer and people leads to more deer-related collisions on roadways. The damage from collisions with deer could put a dent not only in your car, but also in your wallet.
Can average anywhere from
In the lows of 1,800, we have seen them in the highs, $5,000–6,000, just depending on where the hit is.
It could take anywhere from 1 to 3 weeks to fix damages, depending on the severity and availability of parts for the type and year of your vehicle. Solving crimes with new technology. How the latest gadgets help local law enforcement take down criminals. Bibb County Sheriff's Office is catching criminals using ballistics technology. The technology was first introduced to the department over the summer, and before that, they had to ship evidence to Atlanta to be tested. Well, as of now, not only can they test it locally, but they also have an added element called match point testing.
Another tool in the toolbox, per se. Change the picture so that we can see things better, either by changing colors, which the different color contrasts make things stand out more. We can also change what they call an elevation, so what you would normally see on the top, just like with an iceberg per se, doesn't show everything. You're just seeing the top of it, but with the system, you now see the bottom of it.
And since the county got its own system, the Sheriff's Office says it's entered in more than 300 cases of evidence, with more than 60 of those proving with credible leads. New tonight, an Arizona man pleads guilty to making the illegal bullets found in the Las Vegas shooter's hotel room during the October 1st massacre back in 2017. Douglas Haig confirming in federal court this week that he made tracer and armor-piercing bullets at his Mesa, Arizona home 2 years ago. He sold the ammo at gun shows under a business called Specialized Military Ammunition. Investigators say the bullets were bought by the Las Vegas gunman Stephen Paddock. Well, Haig wasn't accused of having a direct role in the shooting, a fact his attorney stressed outside of court.
To know, Doug had no indication whatsoever about Stephen Paddock's plans. Doug was absolutely devastated when he learned of the tragedy on October 1st, 2017. He was particularly devastated to learn he had previously sold ammunition to Stephen Paddock. Doug permanently closed his business on October 19th, 2017, and we have no further comment at this time. Thank you.
Haig, who avoided a trial with his guilty plea, will be sentenced in February. If convicted, he could get probation or up to 2 years in federal prison. The man accused of kidnapping a teenager makes an appearance in court just ahead. The terms the judge set.
From the Terrorism Alert Desk in Washington, I'm Allison Starling. 2 U.S. service members were killed in a helicopter crash in Afghanistan. The AP reports the Taliban tried to take responsibility, but the U.S. military disputes that. Early reports show the helicopter did not go down because of enemy fire. The cause, though, is under investigation. The names of the members killed will be released after family is notified. Now, this video from Syrian state TV shows Israeli missiles being intercepted. Israel says it conducted airstrikes in Syria, targeting some Syrian and Iranian weapons and military bases. Israel says it hit targets belonging to part of Iran's Revolutionary Guard, which the U.S. has named a terrorist organization. At the Terrorism Alert Desk, I'm Allison Starling.
A former prison escapee was in court today facing charges for reportedly strangling and sexually assaulting a corrections officer in Tennessee. Curtis Watson appeared at a preliminary hearing. He's facing charges of first-degree murder, aggravated sexual assault, and escape. We first brought you this story back in August when investigators say Watson was on work detail when he escaped while serving a sentence for kidnapping. But during his escape, they say he assaulted and killed 64-year-old corrections officer Deborah Johnson. Watson was rearrested after 5 days on the run. Prosecutors said earlier that the death penalty could be on the table for him. Continuing coverage tonight as the man accused of kidnapping 19-year-old Anaya Blanchard was denied bond today. Blanchard is a 19-year-old college student and the stepdaughter of Ultimate Fighting Championship heavyweight Walt Harris. She was last heard from on October 23rd and was last seen in a convenience store in Auburn, Alabama. And along with bond being denied, Abraham Yazid was also ordered by a judge to submit a DNA sample after prosecutors presented evidence of a man being inside Blanchard's vehicle. Evidence inside her SUV indicates she was harmed during that crime. Yazid has been in trouble with the law before. When Blanchard went missing, he was out on bond for an attempted murder charge in Montgomery. New information tonight. Authorities in Southwest Georgia providing updates to an alleged kidnapping that was reported yesterday but turned out to be a false claim. Ariel Mallory was at a news conference and she joins us live now with the latest information. Ariel, what can you tell us?
No charges will be pressed against the witness that did falsely report an alleged kidnapping involving a suspicious white van yesterday. Now, Police Chief Michael Persley says that no charges will be pressed because the witness was a juvenile. Now, despite the case being false, the chief still advises everyone to be on the side of caution, and they are still taking any reports of a suspicious white van very seriously. Law enforcement officials are seeking any information that the public can provide involving the driver shown in the pictures of the white van so that they can question him to see if the individual saw or heard anything. Dougherty County Schools also did a follow-up today that if any children were absent from school, they got in touch with the parents to determine that everyone did know the whereabouts of their children. Chief Persley says this isn't something that's only going on in Albany, and people need to be aware of their surroundings.
In regards to this white van, there have been numerous reports, not just in Albany, but across Southwest Georgia that we were hearing about it. I do caution people that don't focus on one thing. We need to be more vigilant and look at the activity.
No leads or arrests have been reported regarding this case as of now. The chief also urged people in the community that if you do put out information over social media, make sure that information you're getting is accurate and you are getting it from a credible source. Reporting live in Albany, I'm Ariel Mallory.
And after yesterday's kidnapping allegations, authorities say it's important to be aware of the consequences that come with making false reports of a crime and false statements. According to District Attorney Greg Edwards, a false report of a crime is the act of telling law enforcement that a crime has taken place when it hasn't. Well, false reports are considered misdemeanors. A false statement is when lies are told during an investigation process and is considered a felony.
In this instance, the allegations were that a 10-year-old boy made allegations that he was a victim of kidnapping. And so that would entail what we would call false statements. But because of his age, that would make it a juvenile matter.
And Edwards wants parents to make sure their children are always honest in these situations and to stay vigilant in their surroundings.
Current time is 10:48. Boy, the numbers just keep dropping. Dublin, I'm talking about you. You're down to 37 now. You're just obliterating any forecast we had in place. Everyone else easily in the 40s at this hour. At some point, I'm going to have to research what's going on in Dublin. I've been here a long time, and I joke about it every winter, and it's happening again. So we're going to get to the bottom of this Dublin temperature drop. If you live down there, maybe you're familiar with it. Reach out to me. Maybe you've got an idea of what's going on in Lawrence County. Some type of elevation shift. I don't know. Anyways, I digress. 40s for most of middle Georgia at this hour. By tomorrow morning, we've got the 40s. Dublin, I've got you at 41. I guess I need to white that out and change it to the 30s. Maybe you'll warm up during the overnight hours. All right, Southwest Georgia, you've got your own phenomenon going on tonight. Look at this trip along I-75. So Cordell, you're at 43. You make the ride down to Ashburn, you jump to 51. Tifton, you go to 44. Adel, you go to 53. Valdosta, you go to 43. Man, that would be an interesting ride to watch your thermometer in your car just do this the whole way down to the Florida-Georgia line. 41 in Blakely, that's a cool spot tonight. 47 here in Albany, but you run up to Leesburg, and it's 53 at this hour. Wake-up temperatures, I've got 44s all over the place. Low to mid-40s will be the theme when you wake up Thursday in Southwest Georgia. All right, let's jump ahead to this weekend. That's the timing of your next weather maker. Cold front pushing through the southeast. Ahead of it, very, very warm for Friday and Saturday. Then on the backside, much colder for Sunday and Monday. Friday, and in between will be the rain on Saturday. I don't expect a lot of rain, and I don't expect thunderstorms, but the first half of the weekend will be a little on the damp side. So here's your weekend forecast. In middle Georgia, we've got the clouds, we've got the rain on Saturday, low 70s. By Sunday, we drop it to the low 60s, and that's with a mostly sunny sky. So big difference on Sunday. Look at southwest Georgia. Man, how about that? Upper 70s on Saturday. There's your rain chance. Then we drop it to the mid-60s on Sunday with a mostly sunny sky. Then we jump ahead to next week. Here's the national map for the day before Thanksgiving. So next Wednesday, which is your big travel day, right? We've got this system that'll be coming through the eastern third of the country. And on Wednesday, that big travel day, it is going to impact some big cities. So travel delays could be a concern on Wednesday. The middle part of the country looks okay, but notice this developing storm Wednesday, it is going to rush in, and man, look at that thing develop. So you're talking snow in the Rockies, and then from Montana all the way to Missouri dealing with snow as well. But I think that does not get here in time for Thanksgiving. So we've got rain on Wednesday, and then dry with a mix of sun and clouds Thanksgiving Day. Bottom line, Turkey Day, not looking too bad here in Georgia. All right, here's what the 10-day looks like. Up first, middle Georgia, 68 tomorrow. Then we'll bump it to the 70s on Friday and Saturday. There's your rain chance on Saturday. Much cooler Sunday and Monday. More rain next Wednesday, but mostly cloudy and dry for Thanksgiving and Black Friday. As we go to southwest Georgia, you've got the rain on Saturday, the cool down Sunday, Monday, the rain next Wednesday, but not necessarily cooler for Thanksgiving and Black Friday. In southwest Georgia, we'll sneak into the 70s for Turkey Day. Looks pretty nice right now. We've got a final look at the tropics. New information on Sebastian. That's coming up next. Welcome back. Current time is 10:54. Let's talk hurricane season. You know, after we get the first few waves of cold weather, we kind of forget about hurricane season. We shove it to the side. Well, in reality, hurricane season is not over yet. We still have until November 30th. Sure, we're at the base of the mountain here. It peaked back in September, so we've made our trip down the mountainside, and storms this time of year aren't all that common. In fact, only 5% of all named storms form in the month of November. So while it might be the, quote, quietest month, there's not a zero on here, so we still got to keep an eye on things. And here's why. We have Sebastian out there tonight. Winds are at 60, gusting to 70. It's a tropical storm. Looks a little better organized tonight as the center is northeast of San Juan, Puerto Rico. By the way, this is the S storm in the list of names. We haven't hit the S storm in the Atlantic basin since 2012 when we had Sandy. So a lot of storms this year to keep an eye on. That's no doubt about it. It's been a busy one. Where is Sebastian headed? Well, the forecast cone here pointing out, first of all, it's going to be a hurricane tomorrow. That's kind of interesting. Then it becomes a non-tropical low, but maintains these wicked winds in the coming days. But it's basically in the open Atlantic, so it's a shipping channel storm. But the good news is the captains on those big boats, they're pretty smart, and I suspect they'll just go around it. So right now, we're not too worried about Sebastian, which is certainly a good thing. Aaron?
All right, thanks, Jeff. Hey, trending tonight, Michelle Obama lands her first Grammy nomination for the audio version of her best-selling memoir, Becoming. The record-breaking memoir racking up more accolades as the former First Lady is being recognized in the spoken word category. The other nominees in her category include the Beastie Boys and actor John Waters. The spoken word album honor has a long history of political winners, including Georgia's own former President Jimmy Carter, who won a Grammy in the category 3 times. The 62nd annual Grammy Awards will take place in January. And finally tonight, love them or hate them, at least Kanye's Yeezy shoes are environmentally friendly, or partially, that is. Here they are, $75 for shoes made out of algae foam. Jeff, I found your Christmas gift. Not only is algae a renewable resource, we often have so much of it that it actually becomes a problem. To be clear, though, the shoe will still be partially made from a petroleum-based product, and Kanye is going to make his own algae, and yes, apparently that is a thing, and you can do that. The shoes will be on sale sometime next year. He missed the Christmas deadline.
Darn. Something's going on with Kanye. You know, he's changed his lifestyle, and great for him. And now we're growing algae. so something.
It looked like a glorified croc or something.
Yeah, right, like sleek aerodynamic. I'm not real sure about it. Maybe you walk faster.
There you go, aerodynamic crocs. That's all the time we have on this Wednesday night. As always, thanks for watching.
Daily Mail is coming up next. Have a great night.